Well, thank you for joining us today. My name is Lee Callisted, and my colleague Giovanna Cruz is with me. And we're trying a little experiment called the new SmartMusic Ask Me Anything. And the idea is to uh, have you ask us anything and make sure we just answer as best we can, either on the spot or get that answer back to you. So if we go to the next screen, you can see that Giovanna, maybe you should talk a little bit about your background. I'll mention mine and then we'll get right into it.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Giovanna Cruz, and I am a string player. I have a DMA in cello performance, and I taught strings for 7 years in the Austin Independent School District. I used Smart Music with my students in the classroom, the classic version, which was the only one that was available at the time. And I was hired by Make Music about 3.5, almost 4 years ago to do webinars and trainings and clinics around the country and help shape the development of the product and whatnot. So that's me, Lee.
I'm the other one, Lee Callisted. I taught for quite a long time, concert band, jazz band, choral. I'm a saxophone player, but they wouldn't allow me to put that on my resume. It seemed to be a detriment, I believe. I think what we want to just convey to everybody here is probably the next screen where we're talking about how do we fit into this whole thing. So what Giovanna and I do, we obviously come out of the education world. We live there. That's our career and our passion. In this role with Make Music, we've kind of kept that turf going. We are a voice of a customer feedback option. We are really concerned about making sure that we get your comments and get them to the right people so they can work on features and ideas. We create the e-learning and YouTube content, the virtual trainings for Smart Music, where we're live in someone's school for a couple of hours doing training. We travel and do in-person training, and then we create the materials. And then we, in our spare time, we go to several MEA conventions. So that's sort of our role, and we just want you to know that we are that voice of customer. And our session today is to try to answer those questions that some of you submitted ahead of time, and then also on the fly here, pick up the questions that you might have today as you think about things. So here's the categories of the submitted questions. We're going to read them out and give our answers. And while we're doing that, we're also hoping that you'll submit some new ones. So let's get right to it. Here's the list, a kind of a synopsis list of the questions that came in ahead of time. So we're going to dig right into the percussion assessment ones. And this is, it looks like Mona, and I won't read the whole email address here. Another priority has to be improving that percussion assessment. Right now, there's accuracy troubles, and even when you do the clap/drum button, please fix these issues right away. So wanted to respond to that, and this is one of those things where pretty much in agreement that it is tough for classic Smart Music, and especially the new and a web base, to really handle super assessment with red and green. So the things we've asked several of our friends that are percussion teachers what to do about this. So it's kind of a twofold thing, I think. What the percussion teachers constantly tell us is that the ability to practice with the original music, to hear how the percussionist fits into the ensemble when they play, the dynamics, who's got the lead, all that musical information is awesome to have. On the other hand, it would be nice to have the red and green assessment. So what many of the percussion teachers have been doing is to have the kids practice contextually with all the recordings, practice their assessments, but not live and die by the red and green at home if it's not happening for them, and then come in and do that in-person test with the instructor. And that gives them the ability to see the sticking, the balance, the tone, all those things that you want from a percussionist. And I'm not trying to tap dance or say that, yep, percussion is excellent. It's got some issues, trying to figure that out. But in the short term, I would have kids practice like crazy with Smart Music, but do the testing in person just so you really see and hear what's going on.
Also, in the question that was submitted to us, it was mentioned the clap button, which some of you may not be aware exists. So I'm going to share my screen here to show you where to find that. So if you open any method book, whether it's a percussion method book or any other, okay, under the assessment menu right here, and I have Alfred drum method exercise 2-5, under the assessment menu, there's this percussion clap button. If you select that, you should be able to clap or use, a percussion instrument to assess the exercise. The person asking the question had said that there were some inaccuracies that I think Lee just addressed. But try that button when you're trying to assess percussion or trying to have students clap rhythms and see if you obtain better results that way.
Yeah, so that's an ongoing thing. We're really trying to get that under control. The other thing, just as a maybe a tip, if you're doing mallets, the try to avoid those beginner mallet kits as far as assessment. Do something with a little bit larger mallet setup, and then use the softest possible mallets. Some people even will put a strip of cloth or something down the bars to reduce those overtones. Many times the overtone are just as strong or stronger than the fundamental. So you really have to do a little checking on mallets too.
Yeah, so somebody submitted a question ahead of time reading, in the future, will it be possible for SmartMusic to have a sliding scale of accuracy for students to get green notes when they're recording? For example, have a higher degree of rhythmic and tuning accuracy for 8th graders than for 6th graders. So that's the question. And the answer is sort of twofold. So we're currently looking at ways in which we can bring that early late assessment to the web environment. It's a little bit more complex than when you're using the full power of a processing computer. So we're working on that, and if we arrive at a consensus on how it works and it produces satisfactory results, then we would have a good basis for a discussion on tolerance. So just stay tuned. It's a topic that we're discussing internally. It's important to us too. We're just in the research and development process of that. So stay tuned.
There was a question, the next one is, and by the way, if you can multitask and be sending in some questions, that'd be great as well. It'll take us obviously a little time to go through these, but if you think of something, chat that into us. The next one was, when is the new SmartMusic going to implement importing MP3s? This is a very important feature that's preventing me from upgrading the new platform. With SmartMusic limited jazz improvisation repertoire, I need to be able to upload my own backing tracks so students can complete their assignments. So we've asked this several times, and the short-term plan is that it's not going in right away, but it's on the longer-term plan. But I want to specifically speak to the jazz thing and just show you what's I think a little bit challenging or misleading on our webpage to know where all the cool jazz stuff is. So if Giovanna could share her screen and pull up the home screen, we'll go through a couple of things here. So when we go to the home screen, we have the category that says jazz improvisation. So it makes perfect sense that that's where I would go for jazz improvisation. It really isn't the place that I would go. These are the first things that were done many years ago. Their sound is based on an older file format, and they don't really teach people how to do jazz, but they do have some nice tracks for practicing and doing that. So the place that looks like the right place to go, I would do as the last place. Instead,
He's frozen, so while he comes back to us, the next place he was going to go to was the method books. So if you click on the method book category and then enter where it says filter by keyword, you entered the keyword jazz over here and hit apply, you're going to get about 20 method books that deal with jazz. There's a lot of different styles in there where you can have students practice and work on improvisation. And then in addition to this, the other category where you may want to look at music for jazz improv is actually in the band and orchestra category. So if you click there, and then in the filter by keyword, you actually enter the words solo practice. SmartMusic is going to pull about 28 different charts that have solo improvisation parts in there. So I'm going to open something in here. It's called Few Good Man. Where is it? Right here. And if you say open and then select an instrument like say alto sax, there's a full performance and then there's the solo practice chart. So I'm going to open the full performance, which I actually have up here. Okay, and the solo here is actually visible in measure, I think it's 52. So I'm going to go to the second page for measure 52. Here's where the solo starts. So in the full performance version of this, you're actually going to hear the soloist. I'm going to play this back through my speaker, so you might hear a bit of a delay, but if you were to try this yourself, you'd have a great listening experience. So obviously, if the saxophone player in this particular case is trying to improvise a solo, it wouldn't be too easy to do because there's a soloist in the recording. However, if you go to the solo practice chart instead, and then you go to measure 52 where the solo is, the soloist is going to see all the chord changes, and there's actually a suggested solo there that they can use, or just simply use the chord changes to guide their improvisation. So here we go. So that's a way to work with students on improvisation. The next one was importing MP3s. So I think you already answered that. We don't have a plan currently to allow the import of MP3s because when the new SmartMusic was conceived, it was conceived as a bundle where you have music on screen and the attached MP3 to it. So there's no technical way currently to allow just bringing an MP3 by itself. There's no plan in the short to mid-term. I don't know if there's a chance that that might be reconsidered, but for the short to mid-term, it's not possible to just import MP3s. Let's see, do you plan to add a follow me feature? Again, there's unfortunately no plan to add it in the next 1 to 2 years, but since we are the voice of the customer, we bring your feedback back to the company, so we'll just make sure and note that that's something that is of interest to you, and I don't know if that will make the roadmap change, but we'll certainly note your feedback. Now here there was a great suggestion by someone, and the question was, can you allow us to add parents' emails to student accounts and then add a feature to automatically email the student and parents when one of their assignments has been graded or reassigned, and include the grade and comments in the email? Most students never read the feedback, and when they do, it's not until they've opened SmartMusic to do their next assignment. So we think that that's a great suggestion, and we are reporting it back again. We were told that there will be a field added in the student sign up for the parent email. This also helps with COPA and FERPA compliance. So soon after that's added, at some point, I think we can probably enable the ability to send that email. So just stay tuned because that's a great idea, and we'll be reporting on it. There's another question regarding progress reports, and that one says, this is a very important part of the program, and I would like to have them by now in the new SmartMusic. I would have preferred the ability to produce progress reports to other features. please place this as a priority. So we have put progress reports on the list of features to be prioritized this summer. We had a prioritization meeting earlier in the year, and there are several features that are planned, and the next meeting will be in the summer. So know that we will be advocating for that. There's also other features and resources that compete with each other. So know that if it does make the short list, it still takes a little bit of time to implement, but we're listening to you. Let's see, exporting MP3s from the new SmartMusic. So, and I think that question also came in my window, in the chat window down below. So the way it was phrased ahead of this meeting said in SmartMusic Classic it was possible to record a session and then export that recording as an as an MP3 to another program like iTunes. Is this feature still possible? So this answer has two parts. So if it's a student making a take and they want to export that take, it is possible as a WAV file, not as an MP3, but as a WAV file. The ability to export an MP3 will be available sometime around back to school is what we're told. Now, if you're talking about the teacher's ability to export an MP3 like it was available in Classic, I believe when you were grading, you could click on a button and export the MP3 of the student's submission. That is not currently available. So if that's what you were asking, the answer is no, there isn't a way. But if it's the student exporting their own take, then yes, but as a WAV file currently. Another question had to do around solo repertoire in the new SmartMusic. And the question was, many instrumental solo repertoire pieces have been removed from new SmartMusic and they were available in Classic. What is the likelihood that these materials will be added? So again, when the new SmartMusic was conceived, it was conceived as a bundle of music on screen with an accompaniment. And many of those solos in Classic SmartMusic did not have music on screen. It was just the accompaniment. So that was one part of the answer. The other part had to do with a licensing agreement with the publisher. So what we are doing is working with publishers and renegotiating those contracts so they'll give us the licenses to put the music on screen. And then we can bring many of those solos back once that happens. Just know that once we get the licenses, then we get to work, and we have new repertoire releases every month. We work as fast and as diligently as we can with a small team of repertoire development people, which is, just so you know, about 4 engineers that put the music in there. So that's the answer to that one. Lee, I think the next one was yours.
How does it work for middle school, high school choir students? What music is available? And this is a passionate topic for me because I was one of those choir directors that was looking for some help here. So if we could go back on screen to the software, to SmartMusic, there is a couple spots just want to show you. The home screen, and there we have a couple of spots. There's an obvious one for choral titles, which is the full choir titles. If we just open up that one for a second for choir, and this is where when you look at all the instrumental titles, you go, wait a minute, there's not much for choir. It wasn't too many months ago that was like 70 and then 90, and now it's 151. And they have audio accompaniment, piano, and my parts. You can see each part on the screen and hear all the others. A year ago or so, with the new contracts, the SmartMusic made a commitment to keep adding choral content. So that will just keep creeping up each month. The place, in addition to there, that I just want to show you where I would look for choir titles is the method book category. And when we click on methods, I believe there's 96 method books, and most of them are instrumental. But when you go into the category up on the right, or up an instrument, and put in treble voice, and by the way, this filter needs some work. The only way to see these is go through the list, or apply the treble voice filter right now. And in those 96, you'll find these method books, and they are awesome. So if you have anything to do with choral, you probably recognize the 90 Days of Sightseeing Success, Another 90 Days, Building Beautiful Voices. 3 new ones by Andy Beck are awesome. The choral warm-up routines. And then you've got Patterns of Sound, Sight Singing Made Accessible, Sight Singing, Sing at First Sight, Level 1, the Supplemental, Level 2, a new vocalized canon collection, and then Vocalize again by Andy Beck. So those are some really cool, help me learn how to sing, how to do my ear training, how to get my singing chops going for the method books. There's another spot I would go, and if you back out of here and go to the home screen, and then go to the solos category, again, with our soul literature that is now constantly upgrading, if we go in and once again select treble voices as our instrument, then we'll see that currently these solos are in here for treble voices. And you won't see them categorized like 24 Italian, 26 Italian, New Imperials Pathway. You'll see them by individual song titles at this point. So we might need some feedback from you about how that might best work for you. But those have, every choral title has music on screen. It has the accompaniment, of course, the looping, speed up and slow down. But those are 2 spots where I would really head for. On our exercises tile on the home screen, there are also some warm-ups and things like that for choral, and they're just listed there. Probably at the very bottom of you can see there's vocal exercises, arpeggios, dynamics, and scales. So in addition to the large choral titles, the methods, searching by treble. But so the choral titles, those keep evolving. The places I would look for are the method books, they're super, and then the vocal solos, the exercises, and a category that also, it takes a little bit of time to do, but you can put your own music into SmartMusic.
There was a question that said, please show me how SmartMusic can easily grade my 5th through 8th graders playing an exercise from a method book. What kind of feedback does the student get? Can they change the parameters such as tempo, record with backing track or metronome? Can they use any device with internet connection? Does the grade automatically drop into the teacher's gradebook? So that's a multi-part question that we thought we would better answer with a video. So before I play the video, one of the questions is, can they use any device with internet connection? And the answer is almost. So they can use computers, both laptops and desktops. They can use iPads. They can use Chromebooks, okay? It does not work on phones at this point. However, we've heard a lot throughout this Music Educators Association conference season that a lot of people are looking for that. So we're probably going to investigate what it would take to make it available on phones. Somebody's asking just now, is there a special iPad app? Yes, there is. There's a special SmartMusic iPad app. However, we learned this morning that with iOS 11, which I guess is the latest operating system on Apple devices, Safari is going to allow the use of the microphone. So at that point, you'll be able to use Safari as long as you are on iOS 11. But for right now, just download the iPad app, and it is different from the old iPad app. The one for the new SmartMusic will say the words Smart Music, whereas the one for Classic shows the little circular icon. Okay, so let me just demonstrate with this little video how it would work with 5th through 8th graders. So what you're looking at on screen is the teacher view, and we're going to open an exercise from Recorder Express, which is a recorder method book, which might be a good thing, or might be something you would do with 5th graders or younger. But you can extrapolate this to any method book or any piece of content in SmartMusic. So you can use it to teach in class or demonstrate or whatever. You can also create an assignment very easily. where you can send specific instructions, customize the part, etc. So what we're doing right now is going through the flow of scheduling an assignment. You will see the music on screen. You can change the tempo. In this particular example, we're telling the students that they can submit their assignment at any tempo, so that if they need to practice slower and submit at a slower tempo, they can do that. Once you set your parameters, then you come to the point where you decide how you're going to assess. And so if you select assessment grade, that's the SmartMusic percentage in red and green notes. There's a way for you to have that grade drop in directly into your grade book. And then you come to the point where you schedule, and you set your send date and your due date, and you can send it to all students or particular students. And then that's that. In about a minute, which was what it took me to narrate this, we schedule an assignment. When a student logs in, under pending assignments, they're going to see what they need to do. They pick their instrument, they say okay, and your instructions display on screen. For this particular assignment, we told the students, please practice slowly and submit when all of your notes are green. So that's what the student is going to do. First, they're going to try at full speed, and you're going to see what happens. So the student receives immediate visual feedback, and then they can also listen to themselves. So comparing and contrasting the visual feedback and the oral feedback is going to help them improve. They can also review fingerings, which in this case were the source of the wrong notes, was the fact that the tempo was perhaps too fast for the student. So then they can change the tempo, make it slower. And not just that, but they can remove the accompaniment and perhaps turn on my part so they have a backing track to play along with and use it as a reference. Check another fingering, make sure that they know how to play that E. And now let's say that there's a particular measure they need to practice. And so you can put a repetition loop so they can master it. So perhaps now they're ready to play through the whole thing at a slower speed without accompaniment. And after about 16 takes, they put their headphones on and they're ready to go. So there was an assignment, there was the guided practice, there's the ability to create loops, slow down and all of that, and then the student can write a comment like, it took me many times, but I finally did it, and they submit it when it was all green. So now what you're going to see is the teacher view, logging in, and then going to their grade book, and that grade is automatically in there because when the assignment was created, the auto grade or grade automatically checkbox was checked. And then if you want to see the details, you can open the submission and listen to the student play. So in 5 minutes, that is how SmartMusic would work with grades 5th through 8 using method books. You can extrapolate that to concert repertoire or anything else that you want to do in SmartMusic.
This question came in about how easy is it to use SmartMusic as a supplement to an existing instrumental program? What are the costs involved? And so I guess if we go to the website and just show the costs, and it kind of ties into the next one too, which is how can I better pitch this program to my administrators? So maybe your choice, maybe if you want to do that other PowerPoint of why SmartMusic, and we'll just, this is something that we're going to put the link out to you. It's on our website, but currently it's in a spot that's a little hard to find, so we're going to make it a little more visible. And so if you're talking to an administrator, of course you have to know your administration, but the fact that there is the immediate feedback and that you have guided practice, you can do portfolios. We'll just kind of go through this slide quickly because you're going to have the same PowerPoint here. And the next, so this might be one of those pieces that you would have as a kind of a show and tell after you've gotten to know the program. The other thing that's really been powerful for the new SmartMusic is that the IT department doesn't have to mess with it much at all. They can just set it initially as some websites to whitelist, and it can always updates itself without any need to go back to the IT. And of course, you see the list of compatible devices. Over the past couple of years, we've really gotten the message that half the country has gone to Chromebooks, and of course, budgeting can be a little challenging for anybody. So different talking points depending, of course, on your administration, but you have these talking points listed here. And then eventually they're going to want to know about the pricing. And just a couple of weeks ago, SmartMusic had a completely, the web-based, a completely different pricing model. The educators are now just $40 a year. That's everything for the educator all the time. And then we have different pricing for students. And of course, Javon and I are not in sales, but we want to clearly show you on the next screen that this pricing model really has given some flexibility. So if you can put up the next, yeah. So on this screen, and again, you'll have this to look over, and we have it on our website. Basically, the three different levels that have come about is if you're just doing method books with your younger students, then you and the students could open up any of those 96 method books and use them. You could assign anything from them and the exercises, and that's plus anything you upload. That'd be $4 a year, which is an incredible low amount. If you wanted to add the ability to send out any solo titles or ensemble titles, large group titles to anyone, plus all those method books, then that would be the $8 a year. The students can't open the solos and ensembles unless you schedule them, but they could open the method books. And then the one that a lot of teachers are saying seems to make the most sense for them is the premium. The students can open up anything all the time. That opens up a lot of ideas for standards and development and listening and things like that. And then you can assign anything as well. So that's, as you get into it, basically the basic is methods. The standard is they can open methods, you can assign solos and ensembles. Premium is everything available all the time. That was that classic $40 subscription for students. I do have the other part of the question was how can I better pitch this to my administrators? And I always like the idea that if you're going to convince anyone about doing something, you should really know the program pretty well. So I would get started on New SmartMusic, get my hands on that educator subscription, know about the content and what kind of assignments would fit your students. I would also identify then your plan for using SmartMusic with your school, because you might have different needs for different levels of the building. You might want to check with colleagues either nearby or across the country of what what they're doing with it. And then one thing that really has helped teachers is to do a little bit of a test, a little pilot study, and kick the tires with different types of things, get the honest feedback from your kids and your colleagues. So when you do say you're going to roll out something, you already know that it's going to be working for you. And then know your administrator. And I'm sure you already have a good handle on that already. That is all over the board. But know what kinds of things from their point of view that they're going to want to meet with. And then the thing that we're working a little bit more on this spring is to add to our materials so that you have really good parent night materials, administrator materials, and information that you can kind of turnkey share. But you really have to keep everybody in the loop on things like that.
I think we came to the bottom of the questions that were asked prior to the meeting. Now, several questions have come in since we started, and so I think we can begin to answer those now. The first one was, can I turn off my part in the parameter of setting when I'm setting the parameters of my assignment? So if you try to do that today, the answer is no, but that is coming. It's one of the improvements that is going to be pushed in the next couple of weeks. So the assignment flow is going to be reworked a little bit, where you can set a few more parameters, including whether you want my part on or off, and I think the cursor, and there might be one more thing. Will SmartMusic would be able to send an email that I have assigned a new assignment like Classic did? I think we kind of addressed that a little bit before. So currently, SmartMusic doesn't send any emails to students notifying them that they have assignments. I'm not sure how that would actually mesh with THERPA. You know, I don't know that we can email students directly, especially if they're under 13, but with the addition of a parent email, then I think that would become feasible. So just watch for it. How can I save a student's MP3 of an assignment like I could in Classic? I always like to share these MP3s with parents. So we answered that one before. Like we said, if it's a student wanting to download their own take, they can in a WAV file. An MP3 download will be available by back to school. There currently isn't a way for the teacher to download an MP3 of the student submission, but we'll submit this as a feature request.
The next one is, hi, is there any plan to add date and time to the assignment submission, and also how many minutes they practiced the song like in Classic? So Joanne, I believe we've just been in some discussions about adding minutes as another field besides a number of open times. So that one we're kicking around to see if we can add that.
Yeah, and people may or may not be aware that we have this thing called practice analysis. So if you are aware, and this does not answer your question, I apologize for that. But if you weren't aware that there's practice analysis in here, you can select any class or an individual class. Let's see. And you can select all students or individual students, and then see how much time they have spent on either assignments or exploration. And then down below it tells you how many times they've opened the titles. It doesn't tell you how much time they spent on each, but like Lee said, when we're working on improvements for this view of your students, yeah, we believe like you that it's important to know not just how many times they open it, but how much time they spent on it. So
this next one, will the time delay for new assignments showing up in students' accounts improve eventually? There's a couple things there. When you schedule an assignment, it's not going to leave your computer for 5 minutes, or the website rather, and then it will go out and be scheduled. If it's taking a long time to get in besides that, that might be a specific thing we need to check with to see what's going on. The other piece of that is...
Actually, and sorry for interrupting you, but what I wanted to say is there is a way for you to send it quicker. It defaults to 5 minutes from the time you're scheduling it. So here's that Recorder Express assignment that I had created earlier on for me to make the video. If I click on assign, because it's a template and it just lives there for me to assign as many times as I want, I can select a class here to assign it to. Currently it's 4:48 p.m. Central Time, and this is defaulting to 4:53 p.m. So if I just change that to 4:49 before my clock changes, and then click assign, it should go out to students right away. So I'm going to log in as a student in here.
So while you're doing that, there's another piece of that is in the very near future, they're going to have all the assignment due dates be at midnight for your time zone. Currently, it's kind of crossing time zones, and so that's been a little issue of the gradebook timing. But that'll change in the next few weeks.
It's still 4:40. Well, it just changed to 4:49. So here's the student account. So I'm going to refresh my window. And here is my Recorder Express assignment. So if you want them to go out quicker, you can change that default time. If you're having trouble beyond that, though, and you just schedule them and it's been hours and students haven't received them, then please, by all means, submit a ticket so that our customer success team can help you figure out what's going on.
Okay. So I'm guessing, and can you speak to that? I think, I'm not sure if I said it real clearly, but in the gradebook currently had been set as the due date at 4 a.m. in Paris, and now they're changing it.
I think I understood that was referring to how often the systems were computing the amount of time that students were practicing. So if teachers were looking at practice analysis and a student practiced or submitted something at, I don't know, at 10 p.m., it wasn't showing until later, and it's because everything was being synced to 4 a.m. Paris, France time. So depending on what time zone you're in, that might be a convenient time for you or not. So what's going to happen is that instead of syncing the databases at 4 a.m. Paris time, everything is going to be computed at midnight for each time zone. So if you're on the East Coast, it'll be by midnight at your time zone. You'll see the results for that day, and so on and so forth.
Okay, we got a few more here that have come in, then we'll see if anything else comes. This next one, the resolution of the gradebook pages, and especially the practice management pages, are quite poor, very hard to read, and almost non-legible if using a projector. So is there something I might be doing wrong? This actually is I don't know if you can put your gradebook on screen and just see what we see live with the computer, but I live and die at conventions at the mercy of the host projector. So what we do is we always carry our own projector along. And if you're not seeing things as clearly as you do on your computer screen when it goes on a projector, it probably means you have either a bad projector or more likely an old bulb. And I think the last 8 conventions I've done, I've not used the host projector and put my own on. So just check on that. And usually your school doesn't like to replace the bulbs because they're very expensive. But that's the only thing I can think of is that if it looks different than what it does on the computer screen, that's probably a bulb issue. Having said that, the design here is gray and it's a little harder to have that contrast. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay, will there be a Google Classroom integration? This is a great question. So we were looking at figuring out how to integrate with Google and other LMS systems. And we will continue to look at that. I don't know that that will be done this year, but it's something that we're looking at, so stay tuned. Somebody asked me a direct question. Giovanna, as a string person, do you notice a lesser quality sound for string instruments using Chromebooks? So I think, so what I've experienced whenever I do testing I have a home office, so I work at home with a MacBook Pro, and when I'm testing with my cello, I notice that sometimes I get red notes on notes that I play correctly because it's picking up overtones. With Chromebooks, which I haven't tested as thoroughly as the MacBook Pro, you know, there's so many different models out there in the market that even if I had great results with mine, you may have different results with yours. Um, there's an issue with the microphone gain through the browser. And because of the nature of string instruments and the number of overtones that they have, that might be what is causing trouble sometimes. The other thing that we always recommend for teachers to do is to make sure that students are wearing headphones or earbuds when they're doing their assignments, so that the accompaniment is going directly in their ear and it's not being picked up by the internal microphone. And then that way they get a cleaner assessment. And I have had that experience both on Chromebooks and on my MacBook Pro. As far as the model of Chromebook that will work best, you need to have a minimum memory of 4 gigabytes. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for equipment. Somebody asked about the pricing. I think we already addressed that. Classic has a button to check email student when assignment is assigned. I think we already kind of got to this. Once you have calibrated the microphone, the exercise assessment starts whether you're ready or not. Can I adjust this top? Wait for a click off. So if it starts right away, once it's calibrated, you can just stop it. Okay. So you'll press the record button, it'll calibrate, and then it'll say start practicing, and then the click will start, and it'll start recording you. But if you're not ready, just stop the take, unless we're talking about a sight reading assignment, and then that'd be a different scenario. So just make sure you're ready.
And the last one I see in the list here at the moment is how do students move to the premium level? And that's just a quick discussion with your account manager for each state. And they can absolutely upgrade you from one level to another and get that package sorted out. Javon and I don't have any part of that, but our account managers are responsible for everything in that state. So you just have a one-stop shop to deal with that.
But actually, if students want to upgrade on their own, they can do so from their own account. So, and I will show you how. So this is a student account, and if they go to the upper right corner where their name shows up as well as the logout button, they click on their name, and they will see information about their account. And there's a couple of links here. It says you have not purchased your Play Plus or Premium subscription, so you can visit our billing site. If you click there, the student clicks there, they'll be taken to this page where they can input their information and their credit card payment, and they can upgrade on their own. Or if they're, say, at school and they don't have a credit card because they're a child, they can request that the parent do it for them. So they'll enter the parent email address there, and the parent will get an email for doing this. So that's if the student wants to do it on their own. We have the same overtone issue for the cellist in our orchestra. Is there any other solutions you would recommend besides using headphones? You could try maybe an external microphone and see if that helps.
I think that would be probably the best for the overtones. The smart, and then the different microphones make a difference too. I have a really nice studio recording microphone, and I have a $30 SmartMusic microphone. The recording one is great for nice ambient recording, but the SmartMusic one that you put on the instrument does a much better job for red and green notes. So kind of experiment with your setups.
We have run out of time for today, but we greatly appreciate your time and your interest, and you will hear from us very soon. Thank you so much.